I'm attempting to complete every single Gamecube game, and I'm using a random number generator to pick the next game. Last week, we played Monsters Inc. Scream Arena, a weird Monster Inc. dodgeball game. This week, our game is The Lord of the Rings Return of the King. This game was released October 31st, 2003, and was developed by EA Games and a few other studios, also published by EA Originals. This game follows the events of the third Lord of the Rings movie and is an action RPG. Before we get into this video, make sure to like this video because it really helps out the channel, and subscribe so you don't miss any of the future games. Without further ado, this is my experience with the game. The game throws you directly into the story without any sort of menu when you first start the game. This transitions into the first mission of the game. You start this mission as Gandalf. When you take control of Gandalf, the game gives you a very basic tutorial of the game controls. You can attack quickly, which allows you to hit more often but with less power. You can attack with stronger attacks that do more damage but leave you open to take hits. And it also teaches you about the parrying attacks, which I didn't really use until later in the game during the first boss fight. Once you complete the mission, it shows you how much XP points you've earned during the mission. These XP points allow for you to upgrade each character as you play through the game. Some allows for stronger attacks, new combos, and even give you more health. Then it shows you this giant pillar that has badges for each mission of the game. And as you complete them, you can move further up the pillar. This allows for you to pick if you want to play the story from Gandalf, Aragorn, or the Hobbit's point of view. The first mission we attempted was Paths of the Death. In this mission, we find our way through some catacombs to reach the King of the Dead. In this mission, we fight ghosty boys, and eventually use our projectile attack. For some characters, it's a bow, throwing axes, or magic. And at the end of this mission, we have to defeat 35 ghosts on a bridge to advance to the end. This part was pretty simple, and a good opening level. Next, we chose the mission Road to Isengard, and played as Gandalf again. This mission was more difficult than the last one, but basically we're fighting our way through the woods to help our tree friends break down a water dam. During this mission, I figured out that if you keep your combo meter high, then you get a better score when defeating enemies. This gives more XP at the end of each mission, and it helps upgrading and leveling up characters. The next mission was Escape from Osgoodliff, and was the first mission we got to play as the Hobbits. Their gameplay is slightly different because they're much weaker, and you use the items within the environment to take out enemies. During this mission, we have to stay in the shadows as much as possible because a giant dragon is trying to get Frodo because he's wearing the ring. You have to move into cover once the meter on the top right of the screen gets almost completely filled up, or you fail the mission. In this mission, we got to the very end and died to an enemy that had a health meter, and found out that this game can be very unforgiving. We had to go so far back because we hadn't gotten a checkpoint for a long time. The next time we got to the enemy, instead of defeating him, I got him to chase me and then open the gate that was blocking our way and completing the mission. The next mission was the King of the Dead, which was the first boss fight. This was super difficult, and because I couldn't get the parrying down, I died so many times in this fight. I decided I wasn't ready for this mission yet, and decided to move on to one of the other missions I had available and come back to this one later. I chose to continue Gandalf's story and play the mission called Minas Tirith. Tyrith. I don't know how to say these words. Top of the wall. This mission was super frustrating. Not because it was challenging, but because the game doesn't really tell you what you're supposed to do. In this mission, we had to defend this wall by knocking down ladders so that the orcs can't climb onto the wall. This isn't all that bad once you figure out how to knock the ladders down, but it doesn't actually give you an action button or anything. That you just have to figure it out. Then these giant towers get rolled into the battlefield, and the game tells you to use the catapults to knock them down. The first tower is easy, and there's a catapult next to you. But then another tower comes in on the other side of the wall, and that catapult can't reach it. I lost this mission a few times because I was searching for another catapult. Here to find out, you have to destroy the second tower using Gandalf's magic projectile. Once I figured this out, the mission was easy, and after so long, you run down the tower to the inner wall, and the mission is complete. The next mission is called Shelobs Layer, and you play as the Hobbits again. Frodo gets dragged into this cave and is captured by this giant spider. You move through the cave, killing goblins and many spiders until you reach Shelob, which is a giant spider, the second boss of the game. This fight isn't all that bad, but sometimes the drops in this game are not nice, and they will not give you health potions that typically drop from the enemies. So it sort of comes down to luck. Once you defeat Shelob, a few goblins drag Frodo away, and the mission ends. Minas Tirith Courtyard. The next mission continues the previous mission that we played as Gandalf, and we're now protecting civilians as they run further into the city. In this mission, we have to fight off enemies until 200 civilians escape. Waves of orcs come into the courtyard from all different directions, and you have to kill them. Overall, this mission is pretty easy. This is the first time we see ogres, which you can fight normally, or you can take them out pretty quickly by throwing spears at them. The camera in this mission sometimes feels out of place, and you can't really see what's happening on the other side of the courtyard. Once 200 civilians are safe, the mission is over. Cyrith Ungol. We go back to the Path of the Hobbits and tackle the mission Cyrith Ungol. In this mission, you play as Sam and are storming a wall to save Frodo. When you start the mission, you have to kill 50 enemies before the drawbridge will lower. I really liked in this mission that the orcs and the goblins are fighting against one another, so you can use this distraction to use fire and drop rocks on them. Once inside of the wall, you have to make it to this tower. During this part, a bunch of orcs are trying to get into the tower, and you have to take them down. I had almost no health at this point, and was able to kill one enemy to get a health potion. This was extremely lucky, because right after I picked it up, I got hit by a strong enemy and would have lost the mission. Once you get into the tower, you have to fight a few more enemies, and once they're defeated, you finally save Frodo, and that's the end of the mission. I couldn't advance any further, so I finally had to fight the King of the Dead. This took me so many tries, and I had a really close fight until I died at the very end of the fight. So close. No! I finally figured out the parrying and even learned his attack pattern, so when I defeated him, it was almost a perfect run. Once you finish that fight, you have to escape from the catacombs because they're collapsing. I was almost out and I got crushed by a rock. This would happen to me a few more times, but I eventually got to the end where you meet up with Legolas and Gimli and fight a bunch of ghosts, and then the mission's over. Now that we can advance further with the Aragorn story, we did the next mission called Southern Gate. This mission is really simple. You start out of the gate and fight a bunch of enemies while trying to destroy the tower on the east side of the gate. Once you do this, you can climb onto the top of the gate and clear out the enemies. Towards the end of the mission, a giant, mammoth elephant thing attacks the gate, and you have to shoot it until you hit the explosives that it's carrying. This doesn't seem like the safest way to remove explosives, but I guess it makes it easier. Once this happens, you open the gate, go back down the tower, and the mission is over. It's pretty uneventful. Next, onto a really unfair mission, Pelinor Fields. The mission starts in a big open field, and you have to defeat a lot of enemies. Then the mission becomes extremely annoying. Those giant elephants come into the field, and you have to take them down before they reach the end of the field. This wouldn't be that bad by itself, but you have to run from cliff to the other cliff depending on what path they take. Once you take down a couple of the elephants, a dragon shows up and tries to murder your friends. If he's successful, you lose. The dragon can only be taken down when it's close to them, and you're trying to fight off normal enemies, elephants, a dragon, and your friend's health can't deplete either. It's a lot to worry about at one time. This took me a lot of tries, but I finally got a run that didn't have me jumping from cliff to cliff as much, and I was able to take out the dragon. Once he's defeated, you get a cutscene, and the mission is over. We finally made it to the second from last mission, and this was by far one of the most difficult missions in the whole game. You start the fight off battling one of Sauron's commanders. This part of the mission's pretty easy, and then it changes to a bunch of enemies storming this little circle platform you're on. You have to fight a bunch of normal enemies, protect Legolas, Gandalf, and Gimli, Plus, you have to take down 6 strong enemies without you dying, your partner's dying, and without any checkpoints. This took me forever because my teammates do nothing to protect themselves, and you just have to try to keep everyone's health in the green. I finally got it, and then the final part of the mission, you have to defeat 6 Dark Riders. This part isn't that bad because you don't have to worry about your partners anymore, and you just need to take them down. They're pretty strong, but it's really not that bad. That's the end of the mission. Finally. The final mission, and this one is sort of a letdown compared to how challenging the last one is. You play as Frodo, and you have to fight Gollum off inside a giant volcano. Gollum doesn't really have any strong attacks. You just have to push him back and try to knock him into the lava. After each attempt, his health goes down, and you get a health potion. Other than some rocks falling in this fight, it's actually very simple. Once you knock Gollum into the lava for good, we get a final cutscene, and we finish the game. This unlocks the ability to replay any mission with any character from the game and shows a bunch of cheats that can be used, like one for invincibility. We finished our second game, and wow, was this something else. The game got very difficult in parts, but overall it was a fun experience. I'd give this game a recommend to someone that wants to play through something Lord of the Rings, or for people that like action RPGs. If you want to know what's next, stay to find out. But for everyone else, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Alright, so we are going, if you don't want to know and you just want to be surprised next time, this is where I'd recommend clicking away for a moment or whatever. But we are going to generate a number, and then we're going to go to the list and figure out what the next game we're playing is. So on the count of 1, 2, 3. 351. And what is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? It is Over the Hedge. So another kids game. Great. But okay, Over the Hedge is our next game.